it's about truth, then why would God create kind of mental conditions like schizophrenia, for example, that distort the truth, where it's actually, like, I guess, biologically impossible to know and tell the difference between reality and not reality?
Good. Schizophrenia is a perversion of the beautiful creation that God created. So is sickle cell anemia, so is cancer and heart failure, so is depression and anxiety, chemical imbalances. Unfortunately, the majority, all of us at some point are going to experience it.
Most of us have some schizophrenia. Most of us have plenty of chemical imbalances, but it's not a must. It's just because we are eating unnaturally. We are sinning, so to speak. We are going against creation. The definition of schizophrenia is that you imagine things, first of all, and you really believe that that imagination is the real deal, is nature itself. This guy has read some books, and he believes that the characters within those books are the real deal, that really existed and still exist. Pure schizophrenia.
The aging process. I wish I was your age instead of 70. All right?
A lot of energy for 70.
We're falling apart. I am falling apart. And that is not good.
But where does it come from if not from God?
Where it comes from is when human beings rebel against God. Genesis chapter 3 records the big fall. God steps back because human beings tell him, get lost.
You have to understand that whatever biology, whatever nature creates, it has a program. It is meant to be some or somewhat way. You have an instinct. You have an instinct tendency to certain foods, to when it gets too warm to go to shade, when it gets too cold to go to the sun, etc. When you sin, when you go against that nature, you cannot expect good outcomes to come from it, because you are going against creation itself.
He responds respectfully to our free will. He takes a step back, and the consequences are horrendous.
So then it was original sin that caused these kind of like diseases, mental afflictions.
Well, it's a consequence telling God, take a hike. There are consequences.
So when God steps back, then it perverses itself then?
It falls apart.
Is it an intervention of evil or the devil?
It's a falling apart. The devil is part of it, but our own sin.
What devil? You mean evil and you're just putting a D in it because you're French or something? And what evil then, if anything? What is evil anyway? There is a program, there is a biology, there is a creation. You go against it, you get effed. As simple as that.
Well, choices are part of it. I mean, just study children of alcoholics. There are consequences that are pretty scary to our decisions. And if anybody tells me that this magnificent place was put together last summer, I'm going to tell you you're an idiot. No, a lot of people sacrificed over a long period of time and put this magnificent university together. So there are consequences to our free decision.
Let me be religious also for a minute. From what I've seen on the internet, from pictures, from writings, it appears that there is some indications to make me convinced that our world, as in the infrastructures that we have, New York City, the Empire State Building, buildings like this, anything that we call Roman, anything that we call Greek, anything that is magnificent, harmonious, opulent, was designed by a Type 3 civilization that refugied themselves on Earth and built all of this. But I don't live as if that is true. I am convinced of it, sure. I believe that more than what we are presented in schools or mainstream as the real history. But it changes nothing about my life. I believe that there's a high probability of it being true, although I have no reason to prove it, and so I cannot change my life from it. There's a big difference to revolve your life about something imaginary or just to use it as an entertainment, which is what it is for me.
And guess what, ma'am? A woman just walked up who's my best friend. She's my wife. Hey, Sharon, come here, would you? This woman has traveled with me to more college campuses around this country than I could name, and I'm very grateful. But we have a nephew who was born with spina bifida and who's not probably going to live much longer. And I can promise you that is not God punishing anybody.
That is the creation punishing their parents, especially their mother, from not nurturing herself well, possibly 100% consuming a lot of hormone and endocrine disruptors, etc.
It's a result of our nephew being born into a cursed, unfair, messed up world where there are genetic disorder.
Then again, cursing is just your imagination. There is nothing messed up about the world as in the physical realm we live in. It's just nature and beautiful. Anything that is built over it is our doing, and if it's not great, it's our doing, it's our fault.
Chemical imbalances, weird diseases. And notice when Jesus walked the planet, he said it's not right. He healed the sick. He raised the dead. He fed the hungry.
According to the book that is the Bible, that character did those things. Do we know if that character was a real person? No. And if he was a real person, do we know that he did all of the things that were written about him? I mean, according to my personal convictions of what I've seen from what I was talking about earlier, Jesus is just a mimicking He's just a character mimicking our creator of these type of buildings, of this type of world, the main guy from the Elohim, Anunnaki. You call them whatever you want to call them.
That's
it's
why
another theory for me to say this is the right one, like he's saying about this would be stupid. It's just an idea. Like, let's just entertain ourselves.
Put our faith in Jesus because he's so good. He's not going to rip anybody off.
So one thing that I've always grappled with, I guess, is the idea of the Holy Spirit.
This is the consequence of a pure growing. This guy has used too much endocrine disruptors, too much hormonal disruptors, a feminizing diet. He possibly has consumed a lot of dairy or coconut or whatever, something that has made him quite aroused. He engaged too much in sexual behavior, and as you can see, his sexual dimorphism, even though not physically looks very good and harmonious, better than me, but you can see just from his voice and the way he speaks that, yeah, he's half a woman right now.
I've always had trouble visualizing what the Holy Spirit is.
This is one example of when you mess up with creation.
How it interacts with our world today, so I would love to hear your guys' take on that.
All right, the Holy Spirit is the most overlooked person of the Trinity. The Holy Spirit is the one who, in John chapter 17, Jesus said the parakleto in Greek, which means that.
These guys literally look like those fanatics about the Lord of the Rings. I love the Lord of the Rings. That they are so obsessed that they even know the chapters when everything happens. There is no difference between these guys, this Stuart and Cliff Netchet, sorry for not saying it right, and Lord of the Rings or whatever series, Game of Thrones fanatics that know every single detail in that world. But at least Lord of the Rings fanatics know it's just a book, even though there might be some inspirations from the real world. It's still a book. No way you can prove anything of this, but these guys think it's true.
Helper will come to you. And in many ways, he's talking about he is better than I. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean the Holy Spirit's better than Jesus? No, that's not what he meant by that. What he meant by that, though, is Jesus was fully human, so he could only get to a few of us at once.
From what I've seen, the character that Jesus mimics, if there is any sort of inspiration from reality to that character, is that the guy was most definitely not human. The guy was about 1 meter taller than the average human. He was Elohim, Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, Helvian.
The Holy Spirit can get to everybody. So that's what he meant by that.
That's why he could live so much longer than us, because our telomeres on creation by these aliens, Anunnaki, Elohim, were shortened so that we only live up to 120. Do I have any proof for this? Absolutely not. But they don't have either for theirs. They are sharing their conviction. I'm sharing mine. Mine is just for entertainment. Theirs, it completely controls their life.
That's right, we're all sinners, every single one of us. That's why all of us need Jesus Christ. I am a dirty, rotten sinner. That's why I need the grace of God. It's why I need Jesus Christ.
Couldn't you?
Why you not being able to follow creation itself, your instincts, whatever nature provides, has anything to do with you needing a character in a book, in a story? Because he inspires you in the direction that will lead you to less sinning, as in to align yourself better with your nature, with nature. I don't see that being the case. I mean, your case, you should have more health by your age. I should have had more health for my age if I didn't sin, as in if I trusted my nature better. But no, I followed my conviction, my ideas, my stupid reasoning. I ruined my youth by possibility to find a partner to make children with at a young age. I can only do that from now on, but my 20s are gone.
Not for the dirty that they do, but because they're a human being created in the image of God.
By the way, this image of God comes from the comes from the indication, not fact, not evidence, that the type civilization, instead of creating a Tesla bot, they basically grabbed some genes from a primate, some genes from themselves, meaning themselves as God, and they created us. So we were created in the likeness, in the image of God, of gods, of them. But yeah, we are about 1 meter smaller than them on average.
You take God out of the picture, you're up a creek without a paddle when it comes to explaining to me why my enemy has value.
If you take creation out of the picture, you will have severe consequences, just like I have. This guy that asked the question here on the left, he looks very beautiful, very harmonious, tall. He is the product of his ancestors having followed nature. They ate what their biology asked for. His mother fed him herself and him properly in the beginning stages of his life. He, as a teen, has been feeding himself properly. That's why you don't see any acne on him. If he starts going against his nature, he will start to pay the price and gradually become less and less appealing to a potential mate to have potential children.